All right, so this is a really good lesson plan. There's a lot of things I liked, and there's also some things that I don't like. But the topic, it's not crucial per se. It is important because a lot of people use social media, but not everybody does, myself included. I'm not too keen on the social media, as well as the academic side. You're almost never going to use social media from that perspective. All right. So I like I like the detail of the lesson plan. It has the time, which is good. The aim as well, which I'm considering it to be like what students should be able to do. That's also good that it has that in there. One thing that I did notice is that they're using the Common European Framework, and it does say A2 right there. And A2, I'm not sure if it's appropriate for a basic user or an elementary level, is what the Common European Framework calls it. It might be a little advanced for them, but um, it might not be. I'm not quite sure. All right. So I like that it does have a warm up activity, and it's good because it does it in a group, and they're supposed to talk about these three questions. So anything that gets students practicing their English, it's definitely a good thing. And yes, it does say tell students to discuss questions in small groups. All right. So the when they're setting up the task, uh, this is when they hand out the other one, the other sheet for yeah, which is the first handout, the student two handout. All right, I like I like the tip right here. That tip is a good one. Yeah, make them share so they actually have to talk about it. And then once they're talking, yeah, that's when they should each get their own. All right. So here you're supposed to dictate these questions, but I would dictate them one by one and then have the students talking about it, as opposed to doing it as a class. All right. This tip right here, because they already have the sheet, they should know that once it's handed to them, that that they should not worry about filling in the box. But by now they're already on task, on student handout 3, on task 1. All right. That is so here they should be talking to them by now. And all right, you know what? Let's do like this first. So that's student handout 1. This is where they talk in small groups. All right. Then this is also the second sheet. And this is student handout 3. This is good. However, the way that I would rather do it is, instead of them doing it individually, I would have them do it as a group and then take away the multiple choice and let them talk it out and answer it together. So that's one thing that I would do different. Instead of having them answer it individually and by themselves, I would just have them stay in a group and take away the options for uh, the multiple choice. So that's one thing that I would. That's one thing that I would change. All right. Hmm. Another thing that I really liked about the about this is if you actually have access to computers, it does make it authentic, which is really nice. That way, it makes it that the students get to touch the keyboard and yeah, it makes them more engaged. But if you don't have access, then I like how it also has the option to do it on paper. All right. So now they're coming to the part where they are going to write a new message. All right. Before you ask the class to start writing postings of their own, brainstorm suitable topics and write them on the board. Yeah, that's good, but I would have them work as a group first and then as a class come together and do that. All right. Um, One thing that I did notice on this is, uh, where is it at? Tell students to read and check all the comments. Encourage them to correct any errors they find. They can take their they can also take in messages to correct and then give feedback on some common errors in next lesson. One thing that you would not know about or they wouldn't know about is when we use abbreviations. And I'm not sure if they can learn it that quick, like things like OMG or BRB, be right back, just different things like that. I don't know if they start jumping into the social media, would they be able to learn that on their own? Or should that be part of a vocabulary, which this lesson, lesson plan fails to mention? All right, looking at this extension, this, all right, this makes me want to talk a little bit ahead. But one thing about it is the time is 100 minutes. I've done all the math and it does add up to 100. A lot of these, so it's an hour and 40 minutes if it's 100 minutes. And I'm thinking a lot of them is going to, a lot of the time that they have set is not, that the students, especially if they're going to be basic users or A2 learners on the Common European Framework, they probably will not use up the whole time that they're allotted. And this extension as well. It's, if you can actually get students to talk about it, that would be nice, but sometimes they don't feel comfortable, and if they don't, you're still gonna be 10 minutes shy. And that's only if the students use all the allotted time that is set for them. A lot of the times, once they're in groups and they start talking, and then after a few minutes, instead of they might not have anything else to talk about. All right. And then this cooler, it doesn't really feel like a cooler to me because you're just posting all the all of them on the wall so that the class can read. I mean, yeah, it could take 10 minutes, but I'm not sure about that. And it's better to discuss or afterwards, after they get done reading or they look at the things that are being displayed. And these are the answers to the multiple questions, but I already pointed out that I think it should not be multiple choice, and I think it should be talked as a group. I also talked about that how it's the option, which makes it more authentic, and it's nice to have that option. But if you don't, the fact that you can also have papers, it's good. All right. Some things that I feel are not addressed in this lesson plan is net etiquette. Like, I guess maybe when you guys are coming up, when the students are coming up with the suitable topics, I guess you can talk to them and let them know certain things are not appropriate. The most important being uh, politics, especially because on social media, people can get really heated if you mention certain politics or certain things. So I guess, yeah, that can be covered there. All right. So one thing that yeah, one thing that I didn't really like is the time. Just because a lot of the time, just from having taught, it just seems like even the warmer 15 minutes to talk about things, it seems like a long time. And I feel like the students would not use all that. And there's several of these where I feel like the time is, they put a lot of padding on there. Or, yeah, where they just made more of it than is what was necessary. I kind of like they're lowballing the the time. Well, not lowballing because it's the opposite. They put too much time as opposed to it not being used as much. All right. So that's the warmer. Hmm. So something I also I don't see how they would. I guess they couldn't change. They could help each other with the things that they're gonna write as the responses, as their own responses. But I I think it would be a little more stiff and not as, you know, their writing won't be as not authentic, but not as fluent as these guys, especially being that they're a lower level. All right. And I was thinking that while I was reading this, there is a website that that UT Arlington actually uses, which is called Yammers, which is a part of a Microsoft social media. And if the students were here at UT Arlington, that might be a way to introduce it using Microsoft or the social media for the UTA's social media. That could be a way you can incorporate social media into this and make it even more authentic, but they'd have to be students for this one. Uh, Aside from that, that's pretty much a lot of the things that I've noticed about a particular lesson. Aside from the things that I pointed out, I think it's really good and it could be helpful to teach. But again, not every single student is going to find this helpful. Some are very, uh, some can be very socially awkward and might not find a use for social media. But it should be a good thing just to know about and know it exists and know how it works. All right, so that's my critique for this particular lesson plan.